Hi, this is Ricardo Lopez. I'm with Hoven Real Estate. I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about what it is to buy a house in this market, which is a seller's market. So this presentation is all about how to position an offer. In reality, there are many elements that go into an offer. Some people think that it only has to do with the price of the house, but the offer price is only one of the elements. Of course, it's the most important one, but not the only one. The offer in a market like this is almost always above list. In reality, the price of the house is set according to the conditions of the property. So I have clients that come to me and say, hey, I want to make an offer on this house, but the offer is in bad shape. I know they're asking for this much, but you know, it needs like $40,000 worth of repairs. I'm going to offer $40,000 less. In reality, for the most part, the house is priced taking that into account. So that's, you shouldn't be thinking that way in terms of making an offer. The offer price should not be based on the cost of the repair. What we do is we look at what we call comps or comparables. Basically, I'm going to take a look at what's out there in the market and see if that price, that list price of the house is priced according to what the market is saying. If it's priced correctly and there's competitive offers, for the most part, it's going to go a little bit above on a market like this. However, if it is priced way above what it should be, my recommendation is to consider, offering maybe the list price. It depends on how much you want the house, which is the next point here. Always consider how much you want this particular property. Would you be devastated if you do not get the offer accepted? If you really want this house, you got to be as strong as possible in the offer. If not, you can always offer a less amount and see, maybe you get it, maybe you don't. And if you get it, you'll be happy with it because it's a lower price. Now, if you're low in cash for repairs, make a strong offer on a house that does not need work, because basically you're lumping all into the financing. So some people say, I'm going to look at houses and then I'm going to fix them up. But if you don't have money to fix the house, it's better to look at the house that is already repaired. In that sense, what you're doing is you're financing the whole thing. Look for homes that are below the pre-approved level. So if you're pre-approved up to, say, $300,000, don't look at homes at $300,000 in a market like this, because you're going to want to offer above the list price if it is the house that you really want. Now, besides price, there's the whole issue of the financing. What type of financing are you willing to offer? Now, cash tops all. Okay, that's the strongest offer you can make, is if you're buying cash. Consider eliminating the financing contingency. Now, what happens is that people think that, okay, if I'm offering cash means I cannot get a loan at all. Not true. You can make an offer that is a cash offer and still go ahead and get financing. However, what you're doing is you're eliminating the financing contingency. Basically, you're saying, hey, I'm willing to buy this house cash. If my financing doesn't go through, it's not a contingency. I cannot get out of the contract because of that. I got to go ahead and buy the house, or else you're going to lose your earnest money deposit. So, but in order to do this, you need to show proof of funds when you're buying the house. So some people decide, I'm going to eliminate the financing contingency, so it is a cash offer. However, I do have enough money in case I don't have I don't get the loan. I'm going to show that proof of funds. The proof of funds could be your money that you have in retirement funds or whatever. You just want to show that you do have it. And that way you can make that cash offer. Some people that use hard money loans, show a letter from that lender showing that they do have the cash to buy the house. The other thing is to use a local lender, because a lot of the listing agents like to see that it's a local lender that they know, and they're not going to have headaches with somebody that is out of town that they don't know anything about, and that the person does not know this market. Consider a lender that provides true pre-approval. They have this quick underwriting approval, as opposed to just a pre-qualification that is, whatever the buyer tells them in terms of what their financing is. Ask the lender to reach out to the listing agent after the offer is made. This is very important here. The listing agent, when they have multiple offers, they're going to feel much better if they talk to the lender and they feel great that this lender is going to come through. And this is something that when they present the offers to the seller, they are going to make them aware of that. I like this offer because the lender seems to be telling me that it's a very strong buyer, that they have the financing, that everything is going to go well. The other thing in terms of financing is to consider a higher down payment. The higher the down payment, the more attractive the offer. So if you're offering, if you're offering 5% versus offering 20% down payment, that shows you that it's a stronger offer with the 20%, because it's more likely to go through if you have that amount of money, if the buyer has that amount of money. The earnest money deposit, that's the escrow. The largest the earnest money deposit, the more attractive the offer. So some people like to offer $1,000. Well, if you offer $5,000 and you have another offer that is offering $1,000 in escrow, the one offering $5,000 is more attractive. Why? Because if anything goes wrong, say at the very end they don't get the loan, and it doesn't have that financing contingency that I spoke about before, the seller is going to keep that money. But even if it has a financing contingency, say at the last minute somebody wants to get out of the contract, the earnest money deposit is something that makes the seller feels better, that they're not going to get out of the contract because they have that larger earnest money deposit. It's even more important on cash deals, because it doesn't have that way to get out of the contract because of the financing. Consider raising the earnest money deposit if you intend to close on the home. So if you really think that you're going to close, this is, there's no doubt, that is a credit at the end. So make it high. The earnest money deposit is returned if the contract is broken under any of the contingencies of the contract. The fewer the contingencies, the more likely the earnest money deposit could be lost if the contract is broken. So basically in the offer, we got to pay close attention to the dates to make sure that that doesn't happen, especially if you have a large escrow. The other element on an offer is the inspection. The lower the inspection period, the more attractive the offer. Consider lowering the inspection period to 1 week or less. Usually on the as-is contract that we use all the time, it says 15 days is pretty much the default. If you don't put anything, it's 15 days. That went down to 10 days. Everybody was using 10 days. Lately, it's been a week, sometimes even less. But you have to make sure that you have an inspector, rather. What I do very often is I call some of my favorite inspectors that I use all the time, and I ask them if they have availability before we put an offer in, just to make sure. Consider waiving the inspection contingency for a very, very strong offer. So if you want to take that risk, you don't want to do an inspection, that makes the offer very strong, because most people get out of the contract during the inspection. The inspection period is the time when anybody can get out of the contract for any reason whatsoever. So if you take that away, the seller is going to feel very strong. It has risks. Okay, you should do an informal inspection during a showing. So sometimes we even bring an inspector during a showing to take a look at everything, you know, not a formal inspection, but just to give you an idea of what could be a problem with the house if you're going to make that offer without the inspection. You have to plan for repair contingencies. It's less risky if it's a newer house, of course, because there tend to be less problems. Flexibility is another element in terms of putting together an offer. Close when it is more convenient to the seller. One of the things that is very important to do is to call the listing agent and get some information. How many offers are there? What does the seller want? What is important to the seller? When does the seller want to close? Are they looking to close as soon as possible? Or do they need a couple months? Do they need the buyer to do a lease back so that they can stay in the house? Talk to the lender to see how soon you can close on a vacant home. If it's a vacant home, they normally want to close as soon as possible. Consider, unless it is a probate or something like that, but then again, find out about that so that you can make an offer that makes sense. Considering offering a lease back if desired by the seller, that's something that sometimes works. Now, the escalation clause. So this is something else that people use. Escalation clause is a clause on the contract that says in a multiple offer situation, if I have an escalation clause, I am going to raise my offer to a price that is, let's say for the sake of argument, $1,500. So I'm going to raise my offer to $1,500 above the highest offer with the escalation clause. You have to set the top limit of the escalation clause to the maximum that you're willing to pay. So the escalation clause says something like this. I'm the buyer, I'm willing to pay $1,500 over the maximum offer, the highest offer that you have. I'm willing to pay $1,500 up to a maximum of, and you give a number, okay? The number could be, you know, say that the house is $250,000 that you're offering for a house. You say you're willing to pay up to $240,000. Now that $240,000, which is the maximum, should be the maximum that the buyer is actually willing to pay. Understand that you may have to pay the top of the escalation clause. Okay, so you may have to do that. In many cases, the seller knows how much you're willing to pay. So in a lot of cases, the seller may ignore the escalation clause altogether and counter with the top level, because now they know what you're willing to pay. Instead of using the escalation clause, they say, no, I'm going to do a counter offer at that, at that level. At that point, the buyer can say, okay, I'll take it because I was willing to pay that anyway. So this is another tool that we can use. The appraisal. The home may not appraise when you're offering a higher price. If you're going above the list price and the list price was actually set correctly, you can offer much higher, but it may not appraise. When the bank sends for an appraisal, the bank is going to only loan the money based on what the contract price is or the appraised value of the house, if the appraised value is lower. If the appraised value is lower, there is a gap between the contract price and what it appraised. The bank is not going to lend, as I said before, anything less than the appraised value, or anything more rather than the appraised value. So one thing that people are doing is they are waiving the appraisal contingency for a very strong offer, saying it doesn't matter what it appraises with, I will cover it. So this is what is called an appraisal gap clause, which says if there's a gap, I am going to cover that gap. Okay, it could also be a modified appraisal contingency, which basically means that I'm going to cover the gap up to, say, $5,000. you have to, not you don't have to, but it is a lot stronger if you actually provide the proof of funds when offering a waived or modified appraisal for a stronger offer. Coming soon. There are houses that are, they are listed as coming soon, meaning that you cannot show them, you cannot see them, you cannot do anything to that house because it's not on the market yet. It's coming soon, and it's coming soon in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a week. However, some people you can actually make an offer on that house during the coming soon period, as long as it's sight unseen. So you cannot see it, but you can make an offer on it. If you're going to do that, that way avoids competition, because you're actually making an offer before anybody else gets to make an offer, unless somebody else is doing the same thing, of course. Do a thorough research of the property, including prior listing history. Look at public records for permits or repairs. Look at the house from the street. Take a look at the location, the appeal of the outside, the visual state of the roof. Ask the listing agent for any available disclosures before submitting the offer. And consider an inspection period where you can get out of the contract, because of course you're not going to see the house. So really you want that inspection period. This works. I actually had somebody that did this on one of my listings. I got an offer before it was on the market, and my seller, it was in that case a divorce situation, and he wanted to get out of it. To him it was fantastic to not have to show the house, and it was accepted, and it went through perfectly. Everything was fine. Contributions. Well, the seller can make the offer. The buyer can offer the seller monetary contributions. They can offer to pay for the title insurance, to pay the seller's closing costs, offer money even for moving expenses. And I talked before about the lease back. If they want a lease back, you can offer a free lease back. Hey, you can stay in the house for a month for free if you want. Just anything that is going to entice the deal. To increase the probability of success, you have, in this market, you have to see the houses ASAP. If it's a house that you want to see, it comes on the market today. Get an agent like myself that we are available. We do this full time. That's what I do. We are available to see the house. Okay, so if a house comes on the market today, make yourself available. Let's go see it. Even if it's in the evening, whenever, after work, let's go see the house right away. And then if you like that house, do not delay making an offer. Some people say, let me think about it. Not in this market. If we're talking here about how to win an offer, how to make it successful, you got to make an offer if it is something that makes sense to you. The other increase in the probability of success is to increase the inventory. The problem that we're having right now is that the inventory is too low, way too low. So there's not that many houses. If you're flexible regarding the area, if you're flexible regarding requirements, that opens up the inventory. I have a lot of people that say want to buy a house in Palm Bay. And they say, okay, I want Palm Bay, but I want block construction. It has to be block construction. It has to be city water. It has to be sewer. It cannot be septic tank. It has to be an open concept. It has to be a newer house. It has to have and they keep adding things, and then the inventory goes to nothing. So you have to weigh your options. Maybe city water is important, but you can live with septic. And maybe in certain cases in a newer house, the wood frame may be okay. It depends. It's depending on what you want, but the more flexible you are regarding the requirements, the better the probability of success, because you're going to have more houses, more inventory. And that's what I have to do. What I have to do. That's what I wanted to say regarding, putting together an offer. Hope this helps. Thank you very much.